Welcome to the Multiverse, where science, myth, magic, and occasionally a little bit of mayhem all converge in our various streams of reality, right? And that's why we're here. That's why we set up this forum to talk about all the information that's coming through 1,000 different channels and clearly affecting our reality, political, geographic, energetic, people you meet on the street. It's just different. It's getting different. There's a lot of information coming in, and that's why we wanted to set up the forum to talk. So I'm Ken Wells. I'm here with Carolyn Ford, and we're going to talk about the multiverse.
Yay!
It's great stuff. Great stuff. So I'll start out. I'll just to me, I talk a little bit about the what the multiverse is in current scientific terms and yada yada. But on a more personal level, growing up, I always believed in magic. I wanted to believe in Easter bunnies and fat men in red suits and just magic, real magic, dragons, fairies, wizards, aliens, the whole thing. And then as you grow older, you get a little more disappointed as you crack open the textbooks and there's no pictures of dragons or, Delilahs or anything else in there. And so it's been a really interesting, some odd year journey where reality is starting to come back to the magic we knew as kids, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you want to perform miracles when you were young? Did you want to jump to the top of the mountain and
sure, right?
climb the tallest tree?
Yeah. So every kid wanted to. They wanted to be Superman. They wanted to be what they saw in the movies and more, right? So absolutely. And then you get a little disappointed. So then I want to be a mad scientist, So it's like growing up watching Jetsons,
Yeah, that was fun.
The picture they sold us was you'll have this in 10 years. There'll be flying cars and robots doing everything for you, and they sold us the Jetsons and gave us the Flintstones, if you will. Right?
That was good. That's true. I still want to get one of Jane Jetson's mask, for
right.
Skype sessions.
Right. Yeah. Just walk through the combobulator and, get your hair done and, have everything done for you. So, but so the reality, the science of the multiverse is maybe a little different than most people would, at least what they're talking about now. And that's that when the Big Bang happened, not just our universe was created, but infinite amounts of universes were created, slightly different. So water in our universe is H2O. In universe 4.3, it's H3O or O23. I mean, you don't know, and all these places are close but unreachable, right? In traditional science.
Right.
Yeah. So I think along that line, a good topic for tonight would be truth. I know you and I share very similar versions of what truth is and how it should be talked about, and I think that'd be because with the multiverse, I don't know that truth is as solid of a substance as it maybe once was.
Do you mean that we live in an illusion? And that pulling back the veils is really difficult, but some of us are still able to do that?
Absolutely. So yeah, you see people that can see past truth, perhaps are the ones that can see past multiverses, or
Right in front of us.
Exactly. My truth doesn't have to be your truth because you're in touch with different things.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So I know Einstein gave you a message about talking in truths or absolutes, and so what was that message? It's very interesting.
Oh boy, let's see. You caught me, didn't you?
About how
you're gonna have to give me a hint because I don't remember which conversation this
how
was.
to speak about so you don't speak in absolutes. right? Because you have to leave. Truth is so sacred. You have to leave it up to the individual to be able to determine.
Flow into the truth and allow it to become their own.
Right.
So, okay, that's good. When I first started sharing Einstein, the ancient crystal skull, with the world, I was given a lot of conversations and suggestions. I'm never really told absolutely what to do, but I listen pretty good and know it's pretty sound guidance.
Yeah.
So when I share Einstein as an example with audiences, I was told by Einstein to never speak in absolutes. I know I'm repeating, but that to allow the audience to perceive what I say and allow them to absorb it as truth or to explore it and let them grow into that clarity on their own. So basically then we speak in suggestions of probabilities. And I draw pictures for them that they can step in and imagine themselves there or not. And that is where they will discover their own truth. Which takes us into the message that was originally given by Einstein and is one collectively of the crystal skulls, I believe, is that to help everybody remember. And what are we remembering? We say, remember who you are, but remember the truth of who you are. Remember the truth. Like, we live in a world that is illusion, that there are veils here. The world that has been created for us to live in is one that we've been given pictures. We've been given pictures to live by and identify, and some of us identify as this, and then there's a dividing line, and some of us identify as this, whether it's religion or politics. All of those subjects that are kind of like no-nos in a polite dinner party.
Right.
Like, we're not talking religion, we're not talking politics, and we're not talking whatever, And isn't that interesting that these areas that are so divisive are the areas where we are the most deeply influenced with pictures?
Yes.
Where, oh no, I know it's this way. No, I know it's this way. But, and if you listen to certain, there's broadcasts on every level, and whatever broadcast you listen to and identify with, then that's the language you'll have at the dinner party if you so choose to venture into one of those forbidden social subjects. Exactly,
because you almost end up parroting. You've heard it so often on your broadcast or from your parents. Pictures are the preconceptions that are built into our energetic space. So if I'm looking at someone that is a psychic, for instance, my mother or my father had already kind of pre-programmed how I should look at, what I should look through as I'm looking at that person. And that's a picture. And it's totally wrong most times, right? And then it's passed down generation to generation to generation. The story of the woman who used to cut the end off her pot roast every meal. They had pot roast, and finally the husband just couldn't stand it anymore. He's like, "Why are you throwing that away?" "Well, I don't know. That's what my mom did." And she went back and found out the truth. Well, her great-great-grandmother's pan was just too damn small for a pot roast. And so it's just those silly things we kind of continue to propagate. Right, and parrot. So they're patterns that are really important to break.
So I've been looking for the litmus test, maybe, to how do you know when you're so deeply conditioned that you're delusional, or that you don't see, your pictures are just been bought because that's the neighborhood you grew up in,
right?
Or etc. Or you go to church because you want to look good to the neighborhood or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a way that we can test ourselves. When you look in the mirror, this little green dot starts flashing on your third eye. Or no.
Yeah.
Well, there should be some way. I've actually looked for it because...
Well, I have an answer.
Oh, you do?
Well, I have an answer for me and my truth, my reality, what works.
Keep it on your side
What
of the
works,
table,
right? Because, because what I was in the book called The Three Ants that I wrote. And the Three Ants is about trying to break patterns, break out of your daily life to find thrive, right? And so one of the exercises was for me, you read all kinds of crud on the internet, or your buddy comes with a conspiracy theory, or give it a name, all the multiverse, all these streams of information you can't trust. So how do you know what to trust? So that's how I interpret some of your questions. So what I do, what I came up with was, take that as a statement, simple statement, and believe it for 5 minutes. And then take the opposite of it and believe it for 5 minutes. And I mean, just believe it. Don't, that's the way it is. And, there's and it's a simple statement, right? Simple statements, very easy. And feel what your gut is feeling. And if your gut feels really uneasy on one side of that and not the other, you've got your answer. The gut is a really intuitive. You used to ask the old in the Asian culture, you'd ask them, where do you think from? They'd point to their stomach.
Right.
There's hundreds of thousands of symbiotic, intelligent organisms that live there, and it's all vibrational, it's all frequency, and they know an effing lie when they hear a lie, and they will tell you. And so I trust my gut. Some people trust the heart, but
But you see, then I would say this: the gut. I do come from the school of understanding the genetic blueprint. So I have a little bit to say about that. But people with the gut, like you actually have a design that has the potential for gut clarity. Not everybody is actually hardwired to have that as their tool.
Yeah.
So I don't have gut, but I respond to things. So this is nuance now. It's like it could look like gut to you, but to me, it's a full body kind of second chakra, sacral response, and that's my clarity.
Gotcha.
But here's the thing: you're talking about that, but if you've been so conditioned your whole life, your gut feels comfortable there because you're like, if you're raised in a particular religion, I mean, you got that so deep in you, your gut doesn't really have the ability to discern outside that umbrella. Yeah. That's my experience.
It could be.
But I think, I think that's good. But I even want to go deeper.
Right.
I want to go,
you want the black box that connects you to the universal voice that tells you bull or tells you question.
The thing is, your foundation is built usually on the subjects we're talking about, especially religion, let's say. Your foundation is built on that belief. Yeah. Collective news, like I believe that there's a lot of people controlling the news media, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that there's certain things that aren't put out because it would destabilize the religious beliefs of the many.
Yep.
And so that could uproot society in a way that makes them unmanageable. So we're not going to reveal these things. We can't if aliens started coming and everyone realized maybe there wasn't really a God as they perceive it or something. I'm just making things up right now. Then you would have a lot of destabilization. So how do you get past the conditioning that is so deep from even birth or watching the same news channel all your life, for example?
Yeah.
How do you know?
So how do you get past
that to your truth? So
yeah.
That's a big veil to pull back. It's beyond the Wizard of Oz revelation.
Behind the curtain, And it's hard to do. Because you're talking about peeling the onion and you get down.
My whole life is based on my foundation of I'm this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And when you start peeling the onion, you get down to, they call them core pictures. Yeah. And those are the ones that your foundation, as you said, is resting on. Right. And you rip one of those out while you're driving a car at 75 miles an hour, you're going to have problems, right? So it's it's one of those revelatory kind of things that. But you put your whole life into working to not accumulate or get rid of those pictures, Right? And it's important. I spent my first half of my life accumulating, and then I kind of said, you know what? This is crap. And then the second half of my life is deaccumulating. And so you're trying to dig through till you can get to trust your gut or trust your heart or trust your sacral or trust whatever intuition you have.
So here's something. I have a thought. So when you have attachment, I have attachment to, again, all I can think about right now is religion or politics, but whatever, I'm attached to being a good, I don't even want to say any religious titles because I have no attachment on that level. But, what I want to say is that I've worked for a long time with releasing attachments through, with the Hawaiian technique of the Ho'oponopono. And this is absolutely not the short 3-word version.
Yeah.
It's the long, it's a long prayer. It's over an hour long. It was, I was made a keeper of it by my kahuna teacher. And she's the original one who translated it.
That's incredible.
From the Hawaiian language into English. And I started working with her right around that time. She's Morna Simeona. She's been gone a long time. But what I love about that technique, by the way, and it's also a common thread in many other religions, even the thread of Carlos Castaneda and all of that lineage. They do a similar thing, and there's a title for it. I can't think of it in this moment, and I don't want to get it wrong. But the technique is it's involved, but it's non-attachment. So you cut what they call aka cords to anything you're attached to. So if somebody said you were bipolar, or somebody said you were attention deficit, or somebody said you were, I don't know, there's a lot of titles we get growing up. You were stupid, you were smart, you were beautiful, you were this. If they tell you you're beautiful all your life and then you mature in past 40 into not looking like that cute or beautiful person, how many stars and actors or actresses can really recover from that? You have to not be attached, so rock stars have this issue. They're rock stars, they're big, everybody loves them, everybody says yes to them, they get everything they want, and then all of a sudden the 80s is over.
Right.
Or, people quit, and, big hair isn't in anymore. I mean, I was around all that for a while, and then how do you, so a lot of people recover gracefully. Some just fizzle out and can't make the shift. They just, their light burned out for various reasons. And so graceful non-attachment to and so I've done this for a long time. I don't claim to have any, great, I mean, I think I've done pretty good with non-attachment.
Absolutely.
But I still have work to do. But the minute you identify with something, then you realize, I need to let that go. Oh yeah, I don't need to be attached. I have the ancient skull, but I'm not attached. I'm doing the work as gracefully as I know how. But I'm not attached.
Right.
I have a house I'm pretty comfortable with. Somebody asked me the other day, well, would you consider moving? And I was like, oh, no, I don't want to move.
Don't make me give it up.
I'm attached to my little, anyway, I have a little... a sacred space, but I had to really give it thought. That would trip me up for a few days, but then I went, okay, I could let that go too. Absolutely. I actually love the adventure of jumping into a new geometry with no attachment and letting go of the past. So this is what I think
it's liberating.
Humans evolve is to identify where you have those places and let them go.
Yeah, and for the average human, I'd say they're everywhere.
Yeah, and what I'm saying, I think, is the same as yours, is letting go of the pictures, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we just have a little bit different language, which is fun to share.
Yeah.
Because I was a little attached to my technique. Well, the technique I taught,
I'm very attached to my technique too.
It's just all I knew. It's all I know. It's what I know works. Yeah. But I have also noticed along the way that people introduce all kinds of new things to me. Yeah. And you have to be open. Fun. Right. You have to be open. You shared something with me not long ago. It was like such a revelation. It was so simple. Right. I don't know if it's the time to get into it, but we're going to talk about it one time. Absolutely. It was just the simplest, easy thing. And that's one more thing I could say is that simplicity is what trips people up.
It is. It can't be that simple.
Even
It has to be
simplest thing.
complicated,
Right,
and
right.
I mean, look at back to science.
Right.
Look at science; it has a language of its own. Complex mathematics, and if you can't do complex mathematics, you can't understand how our world works. So it's a club, and you can't get it. It can't be as easy as 1, 2, 3. It's symbols and formulas and I think on some level, like some of the greatest scientists have been very plain, non-educated people.
Their mind just goes there.
They're just it's just, and they see through the simple realm.
Is that almost like savants sometimes?
It can very well be, or they're just not cluttered. I like to look. I look at simple terms, so they're just they're not cluttered. So if you're trying to, you have to. So science says you have to perceive everything through our pictures of mathematics, and you have to have this kind of education and this kind of tenure and this kind of internship, and they're very, very hard to get in the door. But more and more people are creating their own little, versions of it. You've got plasma scientists that believe in plasma creation. You've got, a group in Los Angeles that's working on loop quantum gravity. And don't even ask me about that. But it's just different. And so they're, it's again, back to the multiverse. Things are diverging very quickly. And so it's hard to know what truth is. Mm-hmm. You have to step out of yourself and I don't know how to really answer your question. I thought I knew the answer, but now I'm attached to my gut. So now I've got to go off.
It is your technique.
But I've got to go off and let that go. I do.
When you perceive others, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
You've got to kind of separate. So the simplest, the old, Buddha meditations and trying to center and, focus all your energy and just be, that's complete non-attachment, right? And the opposite is kind of what our society is telling us to do. You must be attached to my social media, attached to my broadcast. Here's a cool toy attached to that.
Like my page.
Right, like my page. Subscribe to my tweets, or So it's all about, once they've got that hook, they've got to channel into you, and so your parents do that through pictures and programming, which is fine because their parents did it to them through pictures and programming. And so we've talked about this before too. The last thing, you wrap it all, follow that parental programming all the way back to when it started, right? And we're hunter-gatherers now. And why did I program my children that way? I programmed them that way to survive, so they didn't get eaten, right? So our tribe could multiply.
Right, and it's changed.
Yeah, it gets back to a very kind of basic, fundamental principle of, reproduce, survive.
So I just want to add one thing here while we're talking about going back to the beginning, is when we are born, one of the biggest struggles you meet in this life is the birth process. And so at birth, people struggle. They get the cord around their neck, or they just, even a normal birth is a degree of struggle.
Yeah.
Coming through the birth canal is a little bit of a squeeze. Some are born cesarean. Some are brought out with forceps. Some are put in incubators, etc. So I spend a lot of time studying rebirthing, the process.
Yeah.
What happens then, and where our pictures actually begin. So most people have struggle at birth. So when later in life, in their 20s, 30s, you give them simple answers, they're like, no. I was taught at the beginning of this existence, in form, in my body, that I must struggle to survive and stay alive.
Right.
It's a pattern put into you. And then, of course, your parental...
That's your first picture.
Confirmation, yes.
Right? Your first picture is get out of this, you're getting out of this, and you're getting hit, and you're getting cut, and it's a struggle.
Right. And so we're all convinced at a deep, deep, deep level that that's what we need to do to survive. And then you can even break it down into, I don't know if I talked about this last time or not, but you can break it down into, people that are born with forceps, metal coming into the world, they often end up behind bars.
Interesting, right?
People that are born early and put in incubators and they start with seeing the life through glass, guess what? They wear glasses at a young age. Now, I'm not going to say 100%, but I did studies for many, many years with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you see these common themes.
Yeah.
Anyway, it goes on. If you were breech, where you come out feet first, it's not a normal birth. Then you see people that are contrary personality, 100%. I'm telling you, it's such a fun science.
Yeah, that is really interesting
to study and get into, and and if your mother always, your father's always telling you really, almost hurt your mother, Anyway, stories like that, then you grow up feeling guilty.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
That's fascinating.
My parents always told me I was late. So they still reinforce to this day, you're late. You're late.
And you're always late.
Who said that? I don't know.
Well, I have on a good authority.
Well,
no.
Well,
so, but those are the kind of reinforcements, that you tend. It's comfortable for people because it's maybe I don't know, maybe too harsh, but I was taken out with forceps. I'm always going to be behind bars. It's just what they. It's what they. It's
survival in this world is
and it's okay. So it's okay for them on some level, right? To just fall into that pattern. And I think it's comfortable to be in that pattern of struggle or be in a pattern of this.
It's familiar.
It's familiar,
like,
very yes.
Even in relationships, if you struggled with your father and you're a female, you often, in the beginning of your personal relationship, start attracting men that were like that. I mean, you know that. That's really simple.
Yeah.
I know what the term I want to use, but that's common sense. That happens until we identify it and then release that picture.
Right.
And so the rebirthing process, as an example, you would identify, my birth was a struggle. You release it, you breathe it, you release it from your cellular memory through just a simple breath.
Right.
And then you can. It's gone. You don't really even have to talk about it a lot. You identify it. Yeah, there's that. I remember that. Yeah. And then you can move on.
So everybody's in a different step on this ladder of releasing or depatternizing and so the truth, back to truth, the truth of it is everybody does have their own version of reality that has different truths because that's just where they are.
Absolutely.
And it's not a ding, it's not a handicap, it's not anything. It's just a point in time. Right. And so that was one of the teachings that I had during my shaman training was you got to be able to look in the mirror and love yourself right now. Because you can't be who you're going to be. You can't be who you were. You are who you are right now.
Right.
And if you don't love that, then it's not a healthy, positive. It's not growing. Yeah. Exactly. You can't. It's hard to move on from that.
You're not fertilizing and watering the essence of your being.
Right.
Yeah.
So truth is a multiverse as well.
Ooh.
How's that for an ender?
That's an ending.
Okay.
For sure.
Bang the gavel.
Yay.
Bang the gavel. All right. We'll talk later.
Finish.